It's the hard work, the honesty, and I also very much enjoy what I do. I came because I used to fly with Air India. I'm actually a trained pilot. At that time, they used to call this this part of the job as coordinators, not as a casting director. So I was one of the first few casting directors. You have to be very responsible when you become a star. But if you notice, you watch films in the last 10, 15 years, you will find very strong women centric stories which are not necessarily. A producer doesn't put in the money.
Oh,
Yeah.
what's a producer's job then? Let's get into that. Hello, Mona. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Aakriti. Such a pleasure to be here.
How did you manage to stay 35 years in an industry like the Hindi film?
I think that's a very loaded question. But like I've always said, I think it's the hard work, the honesty, and I also very much enjoy what I do, which is pretty much, I think, the reason for me still to be here, where most of the people that I used to work with at that time, uh, similar to the job that I do, have already probably all retired. I don't even know where they are. I haven't even been in touch with them. So
How did you come from Delhi to Bombay? The journey.
I came because I used to fly with Air India. I'm actually a trained pilot, but my mum did not allow me to fly in cockpit. So then I came and I joined as cabin crew because I really wanted to see the world. And that was in 1985, 86. And at that time, it was not such a it was not a profession that most people would, kind of agree to let their daughters do. But I had already trained to be a pilot. I actually came to be a pilot. And when I got in, she said, it's too dangerous a profession. But then when I turned 21, I decided that I was going to fly in any case. So, and then stayed on, got married, had a child. Then when she was about 3 or 4 years old, I wanted to go back to work. And it was just by default that I started being part of the industry and casting. Um, at that time, they used to call this part of the job as coordinators, not as a casting director. And I then started traveling all over the world, talking to lots of agents and casting directors across the world to see how they worked. And then slowly I brought in that concept of being a casting director into India. So I was one of the first few casting directors. Uh, then I started mentoring a lot of the others to teach them how to be an agent. Actually, first a casting director.
What is a casting director?
So technically, you're meant to be uh, dealing directly with the director, get a brief, read the script, get a character brief, and actually choose the actor for the role. But that's not always how it happens here. But technically, that's how it happens across the world. You can give maybe 3 options for a role, but not 50 options. The job is yours, not for the director to do. So you give your recommendation of, option 1, 2, and 3, and then obviously the final choice is the director always. Director, producer. It also depends on which medium. You see, I've done all the mediums. So whether it's theater, film, a lot of advertising, a lot of television. Uh, there are different ways of working in each of the mediums.
Can you explain a little more as to how you pick somebody for a director or for a role? What is the process like? How do they reach you?
How do they reach me?
Yeah.
That I think is a question you should ask the actors. I think they, I think everyone just, it's word of mouth. There used to be a directory, a film directory, which is now digital, I think. And most people were listed on the directory. And they would talk to their contemporaries and friends and acquaintances and find out who's doing what kind of work. And uh, I've never really had to look for an actor. They've always found me. So I think it's more word of mouth than anything else. They go by the reputation that you have.
Has digitalization changed that in any way? Has it made it harder or more difficult for you?
In terms of casting, no, I think it's far easier now. Far easier. We used to sit with thousands of photographs, which is physical form, to look through those. There was no digital format at that time. And they were only landline phones. They were not even any mobile phones. So there was no way of digitizing anything. Or now, currently, I'm working with a Mexican company, which is a casting agency. I have been collaborating with them, and they are doing the shortlisting using an AI algorithm. So it's so much faster. In 10 minutes, the AI is giving you options of, maybe 10 people which fit the role, which would take me 10 days. It's now being done in ten minutes. But there is a flip side to that as well, that all the people that have been doing physically the work that
Employment.
is so I'm not saying that AI is going to replace as yet. I don't know what's going to come. But current scenario, I think it will replace people who don't know how to use AI. So if you know how to use AI, you will still be able to do whatever needs to be done.
I want to jump into Bollywood. I really want to understand about Bollywood, the Hindi film industry. What is it like? Because I think you eat, sleep, drink Bollywood. Like that's how it's been for you. How would you explain Bollywood as today compared to 30, 35 years ago?
There isn't that much of a difference in the way of functioning, except for the digitization, of course. The and of course the fact that there are a lot more people. I mean, when we started, I started with 50 actors. I don't know how many I have now, maybe 50,000 or
Thousand, yeah.
60,000. I don't even do active casting anymore. I'm more of a producer. In the even in that case, I set up projects that I want to do. I've reached that stage where I don't want to just do anything. So uh, I think it's not that different. The the scenario is the same. It's just the way of functioning is different. But otherwise, it's pretty much the same. I now feel that the top five men and women that used to rule the industry is going to be a little more of a democratic process. It can't be just that because the economics of it is not working out anymore.
Yeah. You said that
I've been
you,
saying this for 10
yeah.
years. It's coming. It's
Yeah.
come.
It slow but steady, I guess. Okay. You said that you're a producer. I've I've noticed that in the last few years there have been a lot of women from the industry, might be art directors or actresses that are currently coming up as producers, which was not seen in particular earlier on. Why do you think that change is happening?
It's just the economics of it. It's just that it's easier to produce your own uh, project in terms of if you have a producer doesn't put in the money.
Oh,
Yeah.
what's a producer's job then? Let's get
Yeah.
into
So the
that.
producer is the person who puts the entire project together.
Okay.
Where does the finance come from is a completely different ball game. A producer doesn't always put in the money, so you have to make the difference to begin with to understand why somebody would produce. So you can creatively produce, you can be an executive producer. There are different ways of producing. There is also an overall producer or a production house. So that is what I do. I put the entire project together. uh, Raising the finance is another part of that, but producer doesn't always put in the money.
So, what was your goal of becoming a producer? Are there certain kind of stories that you want should be spoken about, or is there something else in mind?
I think I felt at that time that I had so much experience with the industry itself. uh, but I felt I was wasting my skill set just being a casting director. There were lots of people doing it, after which, it didn't make any sense and nothing evolved. The process didn't involve, nobody was challenging me enough, all of that. So I felt adding this as a skill set helped me as to grow as well, to do more projects. And I got tired of casting. Yeah, I could do it with my eyes closed. So I think I also got a bit bored with it.
Mhm.
So
So you had such a long journey in Bollywood. I'm sure there's a very dark side to it, especially as a woman. That is something that I want to touch upon. That what is it that you have seen and that is not really spoken about on the outside that should be spoken about?
there are dark sides to every profession.
Yeah, absolutely.
The reason why Bollywood comes in the eye is because it's such a visual medium. Frankly, I think the dark side comes if you don't carry yourself well. If you know how to carry yourself, you don't always have to see that side. Of course, everyone has seen it in whichever manner of speaking, you know. So if you're an actress, you may be propositioned. If you're a director, you may have somebody, you know, kind of uh, I don't know. It could be anything. It depends on which profession you're in. Uh, it's not all dark. It's not all dark. There are dark sides and there are very, very bright sides as well, which is why we are all still here, right? But, and I think that's in every profession. So the casting couch, if you're asking, has been a reality, but not everyone has to go through it. Like I said, it depends on how much you want to bend to do it. I've never propositioned anybody. Nobody's ever propositioned me. So I think, but that's also your demeanor. Maybe that's why I come across as so um, strong. But that's probably the facade one had to put on because at that time there were very few women doing any sort of job in Bollywood. Uh, that evolved, of course, except the actresses. That evolved. Now, of course, we have a lot many more women professionals in the thing.
Over these years, like you said, casting directing direction is something you still do. Uh,
No, I don't.
oh,
I'm an agent to some senior actors. I
okay.
don't actively
Yeah,
cast
is agent a
unless it's my
manager?
own. Yeah, so there is a difference. There is a difference because an agent is a very specific role that you do, which is an international role, which a lot of people don't actually know what to do as yet. But it will evolve. People are learning.
Okay. What are some pointers maybe they can learn from this podcast?
I think we need to do another one for that one.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's
Okay.
a very specific sort of masterclass that one does to teach. I don't think five pointers are going to really. Somebody has to work with me on an everyday basis for 3 or 6 months to be able to actually understand. It's not just about calling and saying, I have certain actors signed up with me. There is a lot of nuance. Which actor fits the role? Uh, Negotiating where both sides are happy. There's a lot to it.
Okay. There are some questions that the audience had because they were very excited that there is someone from the industry that is going to talk to us. So, one of them is that are women, specifically women, typecasted because of their age even today?
I think that has changed a lot. It used to be till very recently, I would imagine 10, 12 years ago. Actually, this time warp in my head now, it's very difficult to, yeah, because it's such a long, yeah. It's very difficult and it's been very slow. But if you notice, you watch films in the last 10, 15 years, you will find very strong women centric stories which are not necessarily age based. There are women who are 50, 55, 45, still playing, not still, now playing
Playing, yeah.
the lead roles, which was
Mhm.
never the case uh, maybe 20 years ago. And there's an economic to it. They always felt that the male star uh, pulled the audience more. So the box office did better if they had the male stars as opposed to a female star. But that transition that took place was slow, but it happened.
So even the gender pay gap that is very, very prevalent in
Even
every
now,
industry. So is that like
it's not in every industry.
almost there are quite a few industries I would say
Yeah. Like a doctor is
corporate.
paid the same, a lawyer is
Yeah.
paid the same, an engineer
In
is paid the
corporate
same.
it's different,
Yes.
especially at high positions it's different. Obviously there's a connotation attached to it that if you are a woman you're bound to like leave at some point because you're going to have babies, you need to manage the family, periods, menopause, so many things attached to it for which they feel like the equal pay is not
Being
necessary to
championed.
have. Yeah, exactly. But is it a gendered thing in Bollywood, or is it the amount of audience that they feel that can be pulled in from the
I think it is
person?
much more the audience thing that used to be the case because it was pure economics. But having said that, most of the actresses in the initial days, if they did get married and had children, it took away certain amount of the enigma that they had on screen, because then people would look at them differently.
As
But
mothers,
there
yeah.
are, yes, but there are also actresses even after childbirth who have worked really hard. They look as good, they worked as hard as a male, and I think that disparity has become less. Now,
And
whether they
yeah,
are actually still working
yeah,
is
it's
another, yeah, that's a
question.
personal choice.
Yes,
That's a
absolutely.
complete personal
Yeah.
choice.
But over the years, who were some of the actors that we know of that you have casted and built
I
their
think I've
lives?
worked with just about everybody over the past 35 years, starting from Sushmita and Aishwarya, Vidya Balan, except the star children who never needed a launch pad as in a casting director. I think almost everybody else who's not from a film background, I have worked with them and they have almost all started with me.
Since you're talking about star kids, I also want to understand that as of today, is it still the same for star kids and any newcomer, or is it different for them? Is the industry actually welcoming or not?
To newcomers, you can watch the films and see how many newcomers are being launched. Almost none. It's very hard for a newcomer who's not from Bollywood to find work as a lead actor. You can get smaller roles, but it's a very long, tedious process. And lesser and lesser new people are getting work, which is why it's so difficult
But
to
as a
survive in the
casting
city.
director, like which you were before, don't you think that's unfair? Or
Of
is that
course, it's
something that
unfair.
you brought on board with you? Was that something that you
I
carried with
only
you?
worked with new people. I only promoted new talent. I've never worked with stars. Always made them come to a situation where they would work on their own because I never signed up anybody. There were no agencies at that time. And I thought it was unfair to sign up people unless you could guarantee them X amount of work. And how do you guarantee anybody work when you don't know what the next project is? So I found that a very unfair practice at that time. Now, of course, there are corporates even making films. So the whole process has changed. So it's very different. But I alone made a great effort to only launch new faces. And that's
Okay.
been my journey.
All right. So from then to now, I want to understand through your anecdotal experiences and some famous actors, how do you see that it is different when it comes to, I don't know, preparing somebody or casting somebody for movies between the two times, like 30 years ago to now?
How do you prepare them? A casting director doesn't prepare anybody.
Okay.
Either they go to a film school or they go to acting classes. Like I said, there were very few of us who were doing it. So they would come to us in any case. You didn't have to go. And for example, when Vidya started, maybe, or Parizad started, uh, they were not famous. So they would look for the people who were uh, who were doing enough work so that they could, come and send their photographs, come meet with us, audition for us. And that was the process. That has always been the process. But if I was to look for somebody on for a project, I have gone from schools, colleges, restaurants, uh, social engagements, weddings. I found Perizad at an anniversary, uh, on the road. I have stopped people on the road and said, "You have a really interesting face. Will you audition for me for a TVC, for example?" Like I said, I used to do maybe 8 or 10 jobs a day. So whether it was a television commercial or a television serial, This is how we used to look for people, especially when we were launching. At that time, we used to launch a lot of new faces. So we made a lot of effort to look
Why do you
for,
think that's not happening now? Like now people are more connected, right? Because of social media.
you know, why is it happening? I think the production houses are not wanting to take a chance with the new ones. They want to work with stars because it's you sign a star, your territories are pre-sold. It's all very economic driven. The commerce of it is so pre-decided that if you want to launch a new face, you've got to have the staying power where you have to take that chance. If that person doesn't click, then the film is not going to do well.
So do you think the social media presence and Bollywood is now going hand in hand?
Of course it is. Which is why now we are being told that you have to find people who have X amount of followers on social media. This is no way to cast somebody. The casting process is to find the correct person for the correct role, not how many followers you have. So, because of all of this convoluted way of doing things, which is why we are not doing the kind of work we were doing. So, for example, for a long time, I have been saying be careful when you're doing certain kind of scripts. There maybe about 15 years ago, I had casted for a builder, and uh, they sold certain number of flats, or most of the building, for example, on the fact that there was an actor, a famous actor, endorsing it and saying, look at this, it's such a beautiful building, and these are the amenities, and I bought a house, and X, Y, and Z, and that building never got finished. And people never got their flats, and they lost all their money. And so they would then start going after the celebrity. It could be an actor, could be a cricketer, could be any celebrity. Because when you have to be very responsible when you become a star, whatever, whichever profession. If you are a celebrity, then you have to be very discerning about what you're going to be endorsing. And over time, this is what happened. The same goes with gutka, goes with liquor, which goes with many things, cigarette smoking, all of that. So if you're endorsing those products, people are watching you. And so now with the gaming apps, people are committing suicide. You have to be very careful with what you're endorsing. You are a face that people are following. So I think uh, your being famous comes with a lot of responsibility.
And in the recent years, Bollywood hasn't been doing so well. What are some topics that you think that they should be touching upon that they're not, that could probably resonate with the audience?
In terms of scripts,
Yeah, in terms of movies or short films.
I think this is the audience has become very discerning. They have now they have a lot of exposure to all kinds of cinema, which was never the case previously. We didn't have OTTs, we didn't have foreign films, we didn't have foreign television, so their exposure was very limited. And now, because of my Aata Wala comes with his YouTube video on. They watch all kinds of content, Korean cinema, Iranian cinema. People are more interested in seeing real stories than just dreams. I mean, that also works.
Yeah,
But I think there is more
should
to making cinema than just,
exist hand
yes.
in hand,
You have to
probably.
read the room. Most people are not reading the room. You're still doing formula films.
What are some films in the recent times that you've seen and you've enjoyed and you think more on those lines should be made?
There are so many but not Indian films.
Indian is what I'm talking about.
Very little. There's just very little that you can watch, which is, and most of them will be the biopics. I think people are enjoying that because they're real stories. They're people they have heard about, but they don't necessarily know. Yes, they don't necessarily know the like Gangubai, for example. You were just mentioning that to me. Yeah, who knew who she was and what happened and how she met Nehru? Nobody knew that, right? So a lot of these, Milka Singh, again, it's a name that you know, but you don't know what exactly happened because you've forgotten. It's not in your history books. You may have heard the story at some point when you were younger, but you've forgotten. But when you actually watch it on film, you will always remember the story. Real wartime stories which are being told. If they're told well and authentically, I think those are the ones that work better.
Who are some of your favorite actors in current times?
Indian cinema.
Yes, Indian cinema.
Uh, I think Vicky Kaushal is good. Uh, I think Siddhant is very good. In the girls, I would imagine um Vidya is very, very good. Uh, there are some who have now left and gone away, so it's no point mentioning them. But there are a couple who are working very hard at their craft. Most people forget that you need to work at your craft every single day. And the craft is not just acting, there are so many nuances to it. So you need to be uh, a very rounded sort of, you know, uh, you should be able to do many things except just being looking pretty on screen.
We were discussing on the phone about your life as a young woman, a young single mother, and how that affected your profession. And I think it was everything odd that you can think. Single mother, woman in Bollywood. How were you able to survive through that?
It was very hard. It's extremely hard, and not just in Bollywood. I would imagine that would happen to any woman. To be the only person who's also the breadwinner and also the homemaker. So you tend to forget that you exist. Everything revolves around the child. Of course, you have to work because you have to earn your living as well. So it's not easy. There's no two ways about that. But then what? Who says that life has been easy? Life is hard for many people. I think we are very fortunate. We have a roof over our head. We have health. We have good friends. We have a good family. So yeah, we've survived. But it was very hard at that time, for sure. Yeah.
Something I did want to point out is that obviously I've seen Kuch Kuch Hota Hai all my life, and then I saw Rocky Rani, and I feel that Karan Johar made a conscious choice to show the changes over these 20 years, 20-25 years, to kind of deal with the society. Like the society enjoyed Kuch Kuch Hota Hai at that time, and the society enjoyed being all the points that were going around in the society to be touched upon in that movie. Do you think this is a growth that something that Bollywood should understand that they need to follow?
I think that's part of life. Everyone as an individual needs to see that. So if a director is seeing it, it's a good thing. It's how you deal with the script and how you deal with the project. That's what makes the difference. But I think everyone should do that.
Back in the day, as a casting director, I think you were very particular about casting kids and underaged children. Can you tell me more about that?
Yeah. So I think that we don't have enough laws governing how we use children in the medium, right? Now, whether it's advertising or film or television, or that doesn't really matter. You're basically bringing them to set. What There are some very over eager parents. They don't realize the harm that they could be doing the child if you don't regulate how they are being used in the industry. So for years together, I used to do a lot of casting with the kids, and I would make sure that we would shoot on either after school hours, or we would shoot on the weekend or during the summer holidays. The number of hours were regulated. I would make sure they had food, milk. I used to shoot a lot with babies, really small babies. There was a shoot I did for a nappy company, and we had 80 children there. And I went to set, which was very rare because if I went to set means there was some problem, and I made sure that they were, mattresses put out. There was clean food, clean milk. hot water, made sure that the mothers were comfortable. It was not easy to shoot with 80 babies below the age of 6 months, you know. Somebody's sleeping, somebody's crying. It was quite a chaotic sort of situation. So, yeah, it has been hard to keep. Most other countries have rules governing how you use children on
Children's
set,
sets.
but we don't. So this is something that I used to make sure to happen on my set at least.
Can you tell me a couple of famous movies that you have been a part of as a casting director over these years?
All of Karan's films, the first 5 films, before him, I used to do his father, Yash Johar, Subhash Ghai, as in Mukta Arts. I mean, I've worked with every big director there is. Swades, I've worked with Ashutosh, Ayan Mukherjee. I mean, just about everybody.
But I want to understand, why do you think that the three Khans are looked upon in such limelight when it comes to the industry?
It's always with the economics of it. It's how much you draw the crowd to the box office. So if they are still drawing crowds, they will still be the top three. All of it depends on how well your film has done the last Friday. It's every Friday it changes who the next star is.
And I'm coming to my last segment now. I always ask this question to my guests. What is the one advice that you'd like to give to someone who wants to go beyond the border?
I think in the case of Bollywood, you need to have the talent, and you need to have the staying power to be able to survive. This is a very difficult city to live in, and it's a very difficult industry to break into. So unless you have that, don't come
All right. Thank you so much.
at all.
It was wonderful. I hope you had fun as well.
I had great fun. Thank you so much for having me on your show.
Thank you so much for staying until the end. To help us continue these conversations, please subscribe on YouTube and like and follow on Instagram and Spotify.